This is an addendum to basic shifting, and it has to do with shifting, a little more on shifting adjustment. And I mentioned before that the barrel adjusters, you have one on each side. These are the inline barrel adjusters. Front on the non-drive side, just like the shifter. Back on the drive side, just like the shifter. But in addition to that, I thought there were a couple of things I should at least make you aware of. The derailleur has limit screws with Phillips head limit screws. They control how much the derailleur can move in and out. So for example, if the front derailleur moves too far out, it can throw your chain off the big chain ring. And if it can move too far in, it can throw the chain off the small chain ring onto your bottom bracket shell. So if one of those things happens, you have to put your chain back on, get your fingers messy, but also you need to adjust these screws. And you can see how to do it online, but for example, if it pushes the chain off the big chain ring onto the crank arm, then the adjustment would have to be to tighten the high limit screw, which would be the inner one. And same goes on the inside for the low limit screw. And in the back you also have limit screws, and one of them is particularly important to know about. You actually have 3 screws here. This is called the B screw. You don't need to worry about that much until you get advanced, unless you want to be your own mechanic and get pretty advanced. But this is the high and this is the low limit screw. You want to be particularly aware of the existence of the high limit screw, the one on top here of the 2 screws, because if it is too loose, the chain can come off the big chain ring into your spokes. You see on novice bikes and kids bikes, they often put a plastic piece between the biggest gear and the spokes, just to because those bikes are for people who might not understand this. And if the chain, that's the most disastrous kind of chain coming off you can have, is the chain to come off the big cog into the spokes, right? You could destroy the wheel. You could have a bad crash. You could even have spokes flying around at high speeds. So you don't want that. So every now and then, when you're just checking your shifting or tweaking it, make sure that the chain's not at all tempted to come off the big cog in the direction of the spokes. You can tell when you're turning the wheel, and we can actually shift up there. So it'll take me a minute because I don't have a free hand. I'm going to do it about 3 at a time here. Okay, let's see if that's it. There. It's on the big chain ring, and it's not at all tempted to go off that way, but if it was tempted to go off that way, you'd start to see it wobbling in that direction, and you'd see that the teeth were too far towards you, that it wasn't, that the teeth weren't going through the chain in a even way. So that's something to particularly be aware of. Also, I'll just mention that you do minor adjustments with the barrel adjusters in the front, but to actually adjust the how well the chain travels up and down these cogs in the back, it's the barrel adjuster on the back of the rear derailleur does that. And it's fairly simple. You just really turn this in the direction that you want the chain to move if it's not moving when you're shifting like it should. So if it's not moving down when you're shifting down, you turn it clockwise. And if it's not moving up when you're shifting up, you turn it counterclockwise until it does, and no farther. Okay, until it goes on and stays there. Sometimes they get kind of caught in between and they'll want to bounce up and down the cogs while you're pedaling. I was on a ride today and mine was doing that. It was annoying. Okay, so that's an addendum then on shifting.